Sir Gawain and the Green Knight, a translation by J.R.R. Tolkien, read by Terry Jones. The following is J.R.R. Tolkien's introduction to Sir Gawain and the Green Knight. Sir Gawain and the Green Knight and Pearl are both contained in the same unique manuscript, which is now in the British Museum. Neither poem is given a title. Together with them are two other poems, also titleless, which are now known as Purity, or Cleanness, and Patience. All four are in the same handwriting, which is dated in round figures about 1400. It is small, angular, irregular, and often difficult to read, quite apart from the fading of the ink in the course of time. But this is the hand of the copyist, not the author. There is indeed nothing to say that the four poems are the works of the same poet, but from elaborate comparative study it has come to be very generally believed that they are. Of this author nothing is now known, but he was a major poet of his day, and it is a solemn thought that his name is now forgotten, a reminder of the great gaps of ignorance over which we now weave the thin webs of our literary history. But something to the purpose may still be learnt of this writer from his works. He was a man of serious and devout mind, though not without humour. He had an interest in theology and some knowledge of it, though an amateur knowledge perhaps rather than a professional. He had Latin and French, and was well enough read in French books, both romantic and instructive. But his home was in the West Midlands of England. So much his language shows, and his metre, and his scenery. His active life must have lain in the latter half of the 14th century, and he was thus a contemporary of Chaucer's. But whereas Chaucer has never become a closed book, and has continued to be read with pleasure since the 15th century, Sir Gawain and the Green Knight and Pearl are practically unintelligible to modern readers. Indeed, in their own time, the adjectives dark and hard would probably have been applied to these poems by most people who enjoyed the works of Chaucer. For Chaucer was a native of London and the populous south-east of England, and the language which he naturally used has proved to be the foundation of a standard English and literary English of later times. The kind of verse which he composed was the kind which English poets mostly used for the next 500 years. But the language of this unknown author from the far less populous, far more conservative West Midlands, his grammar, his style, his vocabulary, were in many respects remote from those of London, off the main track of inevitable development. And in Sir Gawain and the Green Knight, he used the ancient...
Sample complete. Ready to continue?